Have you ever been concerned that your service provider doesn't have your best interest and they might just be after you for your money? Year after year, consumers are being exploited by their service providers for not just a couple, $100 here and there, but the entire industry alone, billions and billions of dollars. So often when you sign up for these, your service providers, whether it be internet, TV, insurance for your car and your home, or maybe your cell phones, is that most of the time they give you some type of deal or plan in order to attract you to their particular service or for you to do business with them. These rates or special promotions have expiration dates, and when they expire, you pay more and they don't have to tell you. In fact, most of the time, you have no idea how much more you're going to pay or when the expiration is actually going to occur. This process actually has a name. It's called bait and surcharge. A review from a couple years ago by Harvard Business went into detail exactly how this bait and surcharge system works. In this review, Harvard Business calls out this process to be blatantly deceptive, with really the only sole purpose is to eliminate competition from provider to provider. When a CNN did a study back in 2019, they found out that it's not just millions of dollars, it's tens of billions of dollars each year Americans are being overcharged for services that they didn't ask for from promotions expiring to hidden fees that they were completely unaware of. Unfortunately, bait and surcharge is extremely hard to track and quantify, so we really don't know how much Americans are being charged. We just know it's a lot. And that's part of the reason why companies love this tactic, is because they know that it is hard for their consumers to track, which means they can't get upset at them when it happens, and it makes them a ton of money, and the government can't do a whole lot because they can't quantify it, they can't track it. So you may be wondering exactly which service providers that I'm talking about right now, and the answer is basically all of them. The ones that we're going to focus on today are the ones that influence your monthly bills, and that's going to be cable, TV, internet, your insurance providers for your house and your auto, your cell phones, and then maybe also some of your streaming services. But every single industry, whether it goes from what's happening at your house to you going on vacation, takes advantages of this bait and surcharge plan. Unfortunately, the problem has only gotten worse as time has gone on, and services that seem convenient for the consumer, such as auto pay and paperless billing, are actually hidden ways that the company has been taking advantage of. So auto pay is very convenient for many Americans. They don't have to worry about their bills getting paid on time, or if they even remembered to pay them, right? Life is very busy. There's a lot going on. We have families to take care of. And auto pay, it seems like a convenient way. And paperless billing, right? We're helping the environment. Plus, you get bills quicker because it comes directly to your inbox. The problem with these is that companies have used these methods to hide how much you're really being charged per month. They're hoping that they get their money directly from your bank account and that you eventually forget how much you're paying. And the way they do that is that they have these subtle charges that you're not alerted by when they're occurring, and your fees slowly go up without you knowing, because you expect to be paying, the same amount that you were paying last month. And if you're not, that they would tell you, and that's not the case, and it never happens. With paperless billing, you would hope that that means that you're getting a bill, some kind of notification to your email that you commonly use. Often this goes to the inbox that's set up for that certain provider. And those that are taking advantage of probably the most are people who are not tech savvy. This can include the elderly. Also, those people that are just too trusting, thinking that companies have their best interest at heart. And that's rarely, if ever, the case. The bottom line for every company is to make money, and they don't care who they get it from. In 2015, they found that 61% of people had at least one bill that was set to auto pay. Nowadays, that is closer to 90% of Americans. At least one of us have a bill being paid by auto pay. Found that 44% of Gen Zers that have an auto pay set up are actually taken advantage or have found that they have been overcharged when they shouldn't have been. So a lot of people can be affected by this, including myself. Growing up, I lived in a household that literally lived paycheck to paycheck. Most weeks, I heard my parents having an argument about which bills they were going to pay that week. And often it came down to which bills were going to be going to collection first, and that's how their decision was made. It was disheartening to see people that I cared about so deeply fight over something that I couldn't even comprehend at the time. And I don't expect this channel to impact many, but hopefully there is someone out there that can benefit from what I have learned, my experiences, and more importantly, my failures, in order to improve their financial situation. So why should you even listen to me in the first place? As I was saying, when I was growing up, my family was always living at or just slightly above the poverty level, living paycheck to paycheck. Nobody taught me how to manage my finances. That wasn't a thing that was really totally understood in my household. I learned through trial and error, because I knew that the only way out of the circumstance that I was seeing my parents live in was through education. I was the first person in my house to graduate high school with honors. I was the first one to go to a 4-year university, and I was the first one to attend a higher education beyond undergraduate. Now, 4 years after getting my PhD, I am totally debt-free, I own a home, and I'm supporting a family of 3. I was able to achieve all of this by asking questions and taking simple steps throughout my financial life that anybody can do. I'm the finance doctor, and in this video, I'm going to help you save thousands of dollars every year with only 20 minutes of work per month. Now, you might be sitting there thinking to yourself, I think this guy is a little crazy. How much can you really save by switching different providers and re-upping on promotions with your monthly services? Well, it's projected that 85% of Americans at some point in the last 2 years have been overcharged for at least one of their services. There was a recent study done just focusing on cable bills, and it looked at 787 different cable bills from 13 different providers. And what they found in that study is that on average, people were paying 24% higher bills each month. And what this essentially equated out to was $40 increase per month. Now, $40 doesn't seem like a ton, but if you think about the number of Americans that have cable and TV, which is essentially everyone, what it comes out to be is $28 billion. $28 billion of hidden overcharges that you had no idea were being taken out of your account. As I mentioned earlier, my personal budget, has been a victim of rate hikes numerous times. I am extremely careful about what comes in and out of my bank, and I always check what's going on. But even despite all of this, I still fall prey year after year to rate hikes that I didn't see coming. I watch my budget extremely carefully, but even with the diligence that I have towards my finances, I still fall victim time and time again, year after year, to these tactics by providers. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to break down and be very specific with how much I was paying and how much I was able to save with various types of bills and providers that my family uses every month. So as we go through my monthly budget and how I was able to save thousands of dollars, I'm going to keep track of exactly how much we're saving with an indicator on the screen. So let's start off with the most common, which almost every household has, which is cable and TV. I've been with my provider right now for luckily 10 years without having to switch it. The first year that I was with them, I signed on to a deal for $100 a month. And it stayed like that, but eventually, about a year after I had them, all of a sudden I noticed my bill went up by $50. It ended up going to $150. I was very confused by this. I had no idea what happened. There was no indication of why that bill went up. So I called my provider and asked them, and they told me that my promotion expired that I signed on with to sign up with them, and that was going to be my bill. Well, I told them that that was unacceptable, that I wanted to pay back what I was paying, and we talked it out, and eventually I was able to get on another promotion. So now I was able to reduce my bill back down to $100. But if I didn't catch that, I would have been paying $50 extra every month without me knowing it. But this simple 1-hour phone call was able to shave $50 off my monthly budget just by having this phone call. On that same call, another thing that I noticed was that I had a bunch of equipment rental charges. Now, some of those things people can't buy commercially, like your cable TV box. But there was one piece of equipment on there, your modem, which I didn't know very much about at the time, that you can actually buy yourself and you don't have to pay that rental charge. This rental charge was $15. And I kept that person on the phone. When she told me that we could provide our own, I immediately went to Google or in Amazon and figured out exactly how much a relatively good modem that had good reviews that could provide the speeds that I was looking for with my current service. And that came out to about $60. So I immediately said, here, I'll send your modem back. I'm going to go buy this one and we're going to get it set up. So this whole conversation lasted somewhere probably about an hour long. And at the end of it, I was paying $85 instead of the $150 that I would have been paying if I didn't catch it. So let's break all of these costs down and figure out how much I saved. So let's start with the modem. The modem cost me $60, but that modem lasted me for 5 years before I had to replace it. So if you think about how much of I saved, it's $15 times 12 months times 5 years. That comes out to be $900 even. So if you subtract the $60 that I originally invested into it, which gives us $840, you divide that by 5, that comes out to be $168 a year. Now, I also saved $50 a month off of the plan. You times that by 12, you get $600. For this 1 hour conversation, I saved $768 for that year, for just that year. Now, every year after this, my conversations only maybe last 30 minutes with them, and I'm able to save the same amount every year from here on out, okay? So when we're making these savings, you always have to keep in mind that everything is in multiples of 12. If you save $10, that's actually $120 over the year. If it's $20, it's $240, and you get the idea. When you look at these numbers and these big amounts, it ends up being a very real number. And like I said, that real number is somewhere in the thousands, $2,000 to $4,000 on average. Most people save by doing comparison shopping and trying to drive down their monthly provider bill. All right, let's move on to the thing that, again, I know everybody has, which is your cell phones. We started with 2 lines and we were paying $140 for those 2 lines. This was an unlimited data plan, and very soon, within the next 6 months or so, I went back and actually looked at how much data we were using. And I found out that, oh, wow, we're only using 8 gigs of data. We don't need an unlimited data plan because there's a 10 gig plan that exists that's actually $40 less. I called up my provider when I realized that we were overpaying for services that we didn't need, and they were agreed to change the contract to bring me down to this lower fee. So I was now going from $140 to $100. Well, very recently, I found that there was another savings to be had, is that I was, every couple of years, I do shopping in the area for different cell phone providers. Again, I only call maybe 2 or 3 companies. Calls are very short, maybe 20 or 30 minutes, and I try to get a quote for how much our needs cost for that provider. This last time, I just so happened I found that me and my wife were only using about 5 gigs, and a 5 gig plan at a new provider was only, like, for 2 lines was $65. As soon as I heard that, I immediately called my current one and asked them if they could match it. They couldn't. I dropped them and we switched to this new provider. So now, because I do this, 1 to 2 hours of work every year for this cell phone, I've been able to drop my bill from $140 all the way down to $65 for these 2 lines, and I have never regretted it once. So in total right now, I've been able to save $900 a year going from $140 to $65 on just our cell phone bill. Sorry, that's my cats. They're trying to murder each other right now, but we're going to keep focusing on the topic here. The other deal that I want you guys to pay attention to is actually where it comes to buying your cell phones for a monthly fee. A lot of providers will say, hey, there's this new phone that you're interested in. Instead of you paying the $900 that this phone is worth right now, we'll charge you that fee over the next 12 to 24 months. Sometimes you're lucky and they just charge you the MSRP for that phone. Sometimes they actually charge you more than that. I get it. It makes sense that you can buy a phone kind of like you would buy a car, where you can slowly pay it over a long period of time. But these are not deals. And in fact, you don't even need to get that type of phone. Often and what me and my wife have done for the last 5 years or so, is when a new phone is released, and we need to replace our phone, we actually look back 1 to 2 generations and buy those phone. Often when a new phone or a new model is released, that the previous models drop severely in price. And so a phone that maybe a year and a half ago cost $900 to buy, we can buy from Amazon and eBay brand new for $300, $200. We've done it every time and we've never regretted it. The only thing you have to make sure is that you are buying a phone that is factory unlocked. Again, I've never had a problem with this. And especially if you buy it from Amazon or eBay, they have great return policies. So if for some reason it doesn't match up with your service provider, you just send it back and then try again. This has been able to save us about $300 a year. We still need to replace our phone every 2 to 3 years because cell phones just aren't made to last that long. But now instead of paying $900 over 1 to 2 years, we're only paying $300 now over 1 to 2 years. And so again, that's about an average savings of $300 a year by buying your cell phone through a generation 1 or 2 old cell phone. Again, new, totally works the same, and you can pay $600 less. Probably the biggest saver out of all of the providers that I've talked about so far comes down to your homeowner's insurance. Just like all the other ones I've talked about, these providers offer you a great deal to start, but then jack up the prices, sometimes with accidents happening. I'll get into it in a little bit, what I'm talking about, but your prices change year after year, and for one reason or another, and then all of a sudden you're paying crazy premiums that you were paying when you first started or when you first joined with that provider. When we first moved into our house, we had 3 things that we needed to do. 3 different types of insurance we needed. We needed homeowners, we needed a car, we needed motorcycle. We have 2 cars, 2 motorcycles, and a house. We were able to get, again, I did my comparison shopping, and I found the company that gave me the best deal for a bundle with all of them. You're going to be bundling all of these insurances because that's the best way you can get a deal with any provider. If you split them up, you are not going to get the best deal, guaranteed. We were paying $1,250 for the house. We were paying $800 for both cars for a year, and we were paying $250 for the motorcycles. After the first year, I noticed that, I noticed they didn't alert me, and there was no indication that our bill was going to go up. I noticed that instead of paying $1,250, which is what I paid a year ago, now I'm paying $1,500 for our house. I couldn't tell from the bill why it was going up, so I called them, and after talking for a little bit, they told me the reason why my bill was going up is because the value of my home magically increased by 30%. This is not COVID time. This was back in 2018 where nothing was really happening. So while she was on the phone with me, I went to Zillow and I found out that my home had maybe increased by 5% during that time. I told her, I think that that's wrong. I'm not sure where you're getting that at. And could you please double check that? And they came back to me a little bit later. I was very persistent. I told them I was going to stay on the line. I wanted them to check it. And eventually they admitted that it was a clerical error on their part and then told me that they were very sorry. A couple months later, when we were paying for our 6-month interval for our car insurance, we noticed that it jumped up $150. We were paying $400 for every 6 months. Now we're paying $550. And I didn't understand what was happening there. And so I called them and I asked them, why did our car insurance jump up an extra $150 for this payment? And they told me that my wife's DriveSafe app wasn't updating to their server. And so they had no record of her driving for the last 2 or 3 months. I went to her phone, I looked at it, I took a screenshot of it, and I sent them that there was a log of all of her trips. What was happening is that for some reason, it wasn't sending that information to the company, so they weren't seeing it. They didn't tell us that this wasn't happening. They know we were signed up for this and that it's been working properly. No indication until we got that bill. The thing that finally broke the camel's back that made me get off of this provider was when it came to our motorcycles. We were paying $250 to cover both motorcycles. My wife does not have a license. She does not drive them, and she rides on them very rarely with me from time to time. Our motorcycle insurance jumped up $150, and we pay for this once a year. And when that happened, I called them again and asked them, because again, it was not clear to me why it was going up. after looking through the paperwork and sitting there trying to figure out what happened, somehow my wife got switched to the primary driver, and I became the secondary driver. Somebody with no license, no experience, and that rarely rides on them got switched to the primary driver. I asked them, how did this happen? They couldn't explain it to me. They did switch me back down to the 250, but I had enough. After the mistake on the house insurance, after my wife's cell phone stopped communicating, and after she became the primary driver somehow on the motorcycle, I had enough. If I wouldn't have caught any of these, instead of paying $2,400 for all of these insurances bundled together, we were going to be paying almost $3,000 for everything combined. So at this time, I started doing my comparison shopping like I do with all my services, especially when I've had enough. And I was able to get our house down to $820. And so that's a huge jump. And you may be asking, wow, why is that so much? Looking into it, because I was confused as well, why someone would basically offer me 50%, 30% less than what I was paying. It's because my current provider was charging me dwelling coverage for a $550,000 house, which is almost 2 times more expensive than what our house is actually worth. Now I have the appropriate dwelling coverage, and so I am paying the $820. So again, this is where comparison shopping goes in. Just that one deal there, I was able to save $450, $400 a year just by switching that insurance and catching that, again, mistake by the insurance company. We got our car to go down to $660, and we got the motorcycle insurance to go all the way down to $130. And then, again, this is a package price for both vehicles, both motorcycles, both cars. So we went from paying almost $3,000 if I wouldn't have caught these mistakes to paying about $1,350. So that's an overall savings of about $1,600 per year for just that insurance. Lastly, the thing you may want to check that you have control over is your streaming platforms. There's Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus, and so on. And you should make sure that you're actually using these as much as you were when you first got them. Me and my wife recently looked at this, and we had all 3 of those. And what we found out is that we almost were putting no time in on Disney Plus or Hulu. And so we got rid of them. We got Disney Plus mainly because we love The Mandalorian. Who doesn't love The Mandalorian? It's an awesome series. But we kind of came to the conclusion that it's over with, and paying $100 for something we never touch was not worth it to us. And we also dropped Hulu, which was another $144. So far I've gone through basically all the major providers that my family has control of and how much we pay. Gas, water, and electric are a little bit more difficult. You can't really shop around for those very easily. Though that being said, electric probably in the next 5 to 6 years, everybody that's listening to this video now should probably look into solar panels, because I think that there's a good chance that that technology is going to get more efficient, and so efficient that you'll be able to easily make money instead of actually spending money on electricity. When I first started all of this comparison shopping back 10 years ago, when I started realizing this, I was probably spending somewhere around maybe 5 to 10 hours per year getting all these various deals sorted out and making sure that I was keeping all these hidden fees into check. Now, on average, I probably spend somewhere around 3 hours a year total doing this. In fact, this year, I don't know if I've spent any time. So we'll just call it that on average for the last 10 years, I've spent about 5 hours a year working on this. And now I am saving about $3,500 every year for 5 hours of work. So that comes out to be about $700 an hour for my labor. And if you're curious what that is per month, it's about $300 a month. Now, if you are living paycheck to paycheck, trying to pay down debt, or maybe build your wealth by doing investments and stuff, or planning for retirement, $300 a month can change your life. It can make you live happier, it can make you live more stress-free, and it can prevent arguments inside your family. I know that this seems very daunting and a lot of work, but I encourage everybody who's watching this video to try it out. Just do one bill, and if you save money, do a second bill and just keep doing it, because $300 a month changes lives. So before I get into the methods that you need to do in order to save you thousands of dollars each year on your providers, I would ask you, if you've liked the content and you find these videos helpful and you want other people to see them, please go down and hit the like button, and then also think about subscribing to the channel. This way, whenever I release new financial videos, you can be right there and you'll see them, and hopefully they can help you out. And if you really like this content and you find it very helpful, then please share it on your social media so we can get the word out to as many people as we possibly can. Now, I'm going to take you through the 7 steps that you need to take in order to get you to where you're saving thousands of dollars each year and having a couple extra $100 in your pocket at the end of every month. Step number 1 is you need to evaluate your family needs. So pick any provider. Maybe it's your cell phone. Go through and actually see how much data you need. Go through and see if you're being overcharged for different cell phone bills or cell phones that are paid off, or maybe look and see if you can find or use older phones that you've already used but they work perfectly fine, to try to reduce your costs. Figure out what your actual needs are for that bill and how you can reduce your spending. Do this for everything. When it comes to your internet, figure out, do you need 300 megabytes per second, or is all you're doing is streaming, Netflix, where then you probably can get away with like 50 megabytes. Now, maybe if you're gaming or doing video editing or uploading things to YouTube, then maybe you need a little bit more internet. But figure out what your family needs are. Do the same thing with insurance. A lot of times, I found this with my mom when I was helping her with her insurance, is that she was paying extra money to insure different things like firearms in the house or jewelry, and those additional things cost hundreds of dollars over the year to insure those different things. And oftentimes, and it is rare that type of insurance is ever used or can even be redeemed if something does go wrong. Step 2 is to generate multiple offers. So before doing this, you want to, now that you've determined what your guys' minimum needs are, you need to figure out exactly how much that costs. And you're going to do this before you call your current provider. You're going to look around and figure out, who else can you get cell phone service from in this area? Is it AT&T? Is it Verizon? Is it US Cellular? Depending on your area, this is going to change wildly. So figure out who offers that service in your area and call them and tell them, hey, I have 2 cell phone lines. We only use about 8 gigabytes per month. What can we pay? Do the same thing with your insurance. Ask them like, hey, I have a car and a house that needs to be insured. Here are the relative ages. Here's the condition of the house. How much is it going to cost me to insure this? Do that for 2 to 3 companies so you have a really good idea of what that service, of what your minimum service costs in your area. Now, with this information in hand, you can call your current provider and tell them you would like to change your service. So yeah, start this conversation by saying, hey, we've kind of reevaluated our needs. We don't need this service anymore, and we would like to reduce it down to something like this, paying X amount. And the reason why you can say a certain amount you would like to pay is because you just compared. You have 2 to 3 offers that say they can offer you this service for X amount of dollars. So talk with your provider, your current provider. In this conversation, ideally you would like to stay with them, right? It's a more of a hassle to move, but you have to be 100% willing to change providers if necessary. If they're not going to work with you to bring down your monthly bill, then you need to get out of there, because you know how much you can be saving right now. And though it is a little bit of extra work to switch providers, is 100% worth it. Even if it's just $20 a month you're saving, that's $240 across the entire year. And remember, because you've done this work once, likely the work next year will be even easier. And so what maybe took you an hour and a half now to switch this year will only take you 30 minutes to re-up, or as long as you're being on top of your bills, to renew. Step 3, it's all about the money. So the bottom line is, regardless of, Verizon has the best customer service, or Verizon has the best signal, or Verizon has the most 5G networks, whatever it is, throw all of that aside. None of that matters. All right. What matters is that your needs are met and you are paying the cheapest amount in your area to get those minimum needs. We were with a cell phone provider for almost 8 years, had really not a lot of complaints, basically no complaints about the service. But as soon as I found that I could go from paying $100 to paying $65, I left in a heartbeat, and you should absolutely do the same. It is not about that. It is about you having more money in your pocket, and so your family can live a little bit more comfortably every month. Step 4 is to make sure that you're asking questions. If you don't understand something, ask them. This process is meant to be complicated. It is meant to make customers feel stupid. And it is wrong, and it's not right. And they could easily simplify this process if they wanted to, but that is the game that you have to play. So don't let them make you feel stupid and not ask questions. No, you deserve to understand exactly how much you are paying and why you are paying that. It is your money, and you need to feel comfortable with how you are spending it. Ask questions. I don't care if you're on the phone with them for 5 hours for you to understand. It is their job. They are providing the service. They are trying to take your money, and you have to make sure that you are getting the information that you need to make this happen. So at this point, you have generated new quotes, and you know exactly how much it's going to cost you. When you generate those quotes, make sure you figure out how much money it's going to cost to transfer and everything. Some people will just say, hey, it's going to be $80 a month. And then when you go over to them, they're like, oh yeah, but it was $20 to transfer. It was $20 to start up a new line. No, screw all that BS. This is about the bottom line. And so you need to make sure that, hey, I just want to be clear, this has all the activation fees in it. This has all the cost it's going to be to switch it, and this is what I'm going to be paying per month afterwards. Get all of that information in all your quotes. Talk to your provider and see if they're willing to match these quotes, and ask all the questions you possibly need to completely understand every line that you are being charged for on those bills or on those quotes. Now, with all of this information in your hand, step 5 is the fun part. It's where you get to cash in. Regardless of whether you're keeping your service or switching them for the next couple of months, you need to watch your bill like a hawk. You need to make sure that the price that you agreed upon is actually what you're paying, and that they're not adding in additional hidden fees that you didn't see coming. So make sure that the bill matches exactly what you agreed upon. If you don't understand it, you call them and you figure out exactly what's happening and what's going on. It's very possible that when they entered your account information, that they instead of putting you down for the basic package, that they actually put you down for the premium package, right? They're humans. They make mistakes, and you need to be able to catch that because they're not going to catch it. When cable and TV providers were asked about how these errors or these surcharges were made, they claimed that 72% of them were human errors where somebody accidentally upcharged them on something. The thing that's funny about that excuse is that since it should go both ways, that if you end up getting upcharged for something, then there should be a chance that you get charged too little. But that rarely, if ever, happens. In fact, I couldn't even really find a statistic for it. So, again, these human errors happen, and you need to be vigilant. This happened with my insurance company. This happened also with our cell phone bill about 5-6 years ago. We went to a honeymoon in Mexico, and so we wanted to be able to call things to check and see how our animals are doing at home. So we got a $15 extension that let us use our phones in Canada and Mexico. We told them that we only wanted to have that on for 1 month. That's $15, 1 month, and then get rid of it because that's all we were going to do. We're going to stay there for a week and then come back. 2 months later, I noticed it was still on the bill. So I called them up and I asked them to remove it. And they were like, yep, sure, we'll credit it. Here's your $15 for the extra, $30 for the extra months. I checked it again another couple of months later. It was still on there. I went into the store this time and told them, hey, you guys are forgetting to take this off, and you guys keep telling me that you're taking this off, and they didn't. And so this guy, again, very apologetic, and then gave me the $30 credit again, another $30 credit, and then told me he was going to remove it. Unfortunately, I didn't look at this bill again for almost 1.5 to 2 years. And then when I looked at it, I noticed we were still being charged for a Canada-Mexico extension plan. I called up the company. I told them that this was happening. They looked in their records and like, oh, the tech that you saw the third time you went in didn't make any notes that you wanted that removed. And then I asked her, why do you think we got the $30 credit if we didn't want it? They did nothing for us. I think they gave us back $30 for 2 years of overpaying. And yeah, so Mistakes are made, whether it's on purpose or on mistake. You're the person who's responsible for catching them, because they are just going to benefit and profit from these errors. So step 6 is you need to now periodically check your bill. You don't need to check it every month, but every couple of months you need to check it to make sure that you're consistently, month after month, paying the same amount. And so when hidden fees or promotions expire, or they add in new charges that you can see it immediately, call them and ask them about it. And if they're not willing to work with you or reduce your bill to what you were paying, then because now you know how much that service that you're getting cost in the area, you can move. And absolutely, if your needs change where you need less service, then you should call them and immediately change it as soon as you can. Because again, extra money in your pocket. But unfortunately, you are the one that has to be responsible for checking this bill month after month to make sure that your amount hasn't changed. Because trust me, it will change, and it will change without any warning. Just think back to a little bit in this video when my wife got put as the driver for our motorcycles, which she has no license to drive. Step 7 is just stay alert for better deals that might come up for your different providers. Now that you know how much your service is costing and that you're getting probably one of the better deals right now in the area for that service, you know what to look out for. That's how I found my $65 cell phone bill, is that I just kind of watched billboards, watched ads from, I don't pay too much attention to it. I just kind of see it periodically. And I saw that come across, and I followed up to make sure it was as advertised, that there was no actual surcharge attached to the bait that they offer. And it wasn't. It was a legit deal. And I've been paying that for the last 2 years, and I've never looked back. The other thing you need to do is every couple of years, you need to survey 2 to 3 providers in your area for all your various services, and make sure that you're still paying the lowest amount that you should be paying. And who knows, there's always a chance that there's going to be a new promotion, or some company is coming new into the area and they're trying to draw in customers. And you want to be on that train, especially if it means that you're paying a lower fee. I know through the course of this video, I've gone over a lot of information, and it probably seems kind of overwhelming right now. But don't be overwhelmed. Take small steps. But whatever you do, take those steps. So the very first service provider you call, it may take you a couple hours on the phone to get everything worked out, to get all the different quotes in the area. But please do it. Please try. Just try one service provider, whether it's your insurance, your cell phone, your TV cable, whatever. Like, try one. After you watch this video, the very next day, tomorrow, mark it on your calendar, try one service, okay? It may take you a couple of hours to call the different providers in the area to go through your needs, but please just try it. I promise you, you'll save something. And likely, if you do everything, it's going to be a couple $100 extra in your pocket every month. The very first service that you try this with, it might take you a couple of hours to go through steps 1 through 5 on this video. However, as you get more enthusiastic about saving money, because you're going to see the changes in your monthly bill and in your pocket, once you see that and become more familiar with the process, this is just going to get easier and easier, and you're going to have to spend less and less time on it every year, while still saving the same amount, if not more, from every year from here on out. Maybe this week you just try one provider. You don't have to do everybody at once, because again, you want to make it so it feels doable in your mind. So maybe this week, or maybe this month, just do one provider. Take your cable and TV and do steps 1 through 5 and try to see if you can find a provider that's going to give you the best possible deal, or at the very least, you can cut down a ton of the additional charges that maybe have snuck up on you that you didn't notice that were occurring. Do this for all of your providers. I am confident that probably would only take you 10 hours at the very most, and the very first year alone, you'll probably save at least $2,000. That's $200 per hour. The number of Americans making that hourly wage from their 9-to-5 jobs is the top 2% of income earners. That's right. 98% of Americans don't make that in their 9-to-5. So congratulations. For a brief amount of time, you were part of the 2% club in America. And as time goes on, you're going to get this into the thousands of dollars with very little time, if any, some years put into this. I'm the Finance Doctor, and I hope you enjoyed this channel. The goal of this channel is to help people have financial freedom that don't currently have that. Please consider hitting the like button, maybe subscribing to the channel. And if you really, really like this video and the content in it, and you want to help others that you know that are struggling or who can benefit from reducing their monthly spending, share this video on your social media, put it on Twitter, Facebook, get the word out there. That is the only way that we're going to be able to help individuals, is by spreading information.